Okay, I've had a few people ask me about quality of tools and stuff like that. And before I got into uh, the hand, or not past the cordless tools and the quarter tools and things like that, some people ask me, well, what's the best hammer and stuff like that. I really don't have an exact answer, because obviously there's a difference between a framing hammer, a trim hammer, and etc. down the line. I can tell you some points and stuff like that. If you're a person that uses it on the weekend, or a homeowner, or doesn't use it that much, about any hammer will do. There again, a lot has to do with comfort and things like that. I'm going to kind of go down the list here. I've got 4 hammers laid out here on the floor. Let me kind of explain a little bit about it. You have the wooden one, and if you notice, they've all have different curves on their on the claws. Okay. Framing hammers. I don't have a framing hammer here, but they're usually larger. May have straight claws or curved claws, depends on what's going on. Okay. This one, we'll start with this one. This one's kind of a trim hammer. It's not a real big hammer. It's okay for a do-it-yourselfer kind of, weekend warrior person. Just don't use it for very much. Maybe hang up a few hammers or a few pictures, stuff like that. One problem that happens with these is, if you notice here on top, I don't know if you can see that or not. There's actually a nail in that one, but this one, you can see daylight in there too. But the wood becomes deteriorated, and you can see how it becomes detached from it and stuff like that. And it allows the head to kind of, I don't even know if you can hear that, but that head moves back and forth just a little bit. So if it's something that you're using every day, you may not want to use that, and there again, wood, swells, contracts, and things like that also. And then eventually you'll have to replace the hammer handle, and that's okay. But you also notice that there's a really high curve on it, so it may not let you into tight areas per se. Whereas if you're doing a lot of roofing, you may want a straight claw or straighter claw. Reason being, in case you fall off a roof, you can bury it in the roof decking or the roof, or catch a rafter or whatever down the line. Alright, some people go with fiberglass handles. These are a little better. They don't shrink and contract like wood, but as you can see, things do happen to them. You got the same aspect here, except this is like melted plastic in here. Basically, they're melted fiberglasses in here. Very strong as far as durability wise. The head doesn't move and things like that. Not a real comfortable grip, I'll be honest with you, if you're using it every day. And that's probably about a 16-ounce hammer. But you also notice that there's a curl to the claw part of it, and the hammer's a little different handle. My opinion is, if you're doing a little bit heavier work, maybe you're using it every other day for a month or so, something like that, this would probably be a good idea. These are all hammers I own, by the way. But the fiberglass doesn't shrink, doesn't contract, and all that, so you don't have quite the problem. But still, you have the possibility of breaking this, especially if you're swinging, and you missed the nail and you hit something. You have a possibility of fracturing this and causing a whole lot of problems, just because the fiberglass splinters in it. But anyway, we will go on to the next one here. Some people say, hey, well, all right, well, let's go get a steel one. And that's fine. These are a little bit better, but there again, they are made separate from the head. As you can tell, that this is a different metal than the head, and you can already see this separating right here where my thumbnail is. Okay, and again, you see the curvature on the claw. This is a little bit more of a trim hammer, which is all right. There again, you can kind of see the butt of it just kind of dissolving a little bit. I don't know if you can get the camera to focus here, but there you go. And there again, very good for a weekend warrior. And I wish I could see, I've got a hammer somewhere, but the reason why this is hollow or getting like that is because the hammer handle is hollow. So in other words, this part is hollow on the inside. There's nothing in it. They're again acceptable to bending and stuff like that, but as a weekend warrior, It's not well balanced either. I mean, the head's really heavy on it. Well, I mean, comparatively to the handle and everything else. And there again, you look at the curve on it. Some nails you can or cannot pull with that. Gives you a lot of leverage to pull nails. But again, you're only as strong as the weakest link, and that may be that. As you can see, I think there's even a flat spot right here in the hammer. Just probably from where it's been hit or something crazy. I can't really, if I can get the camera to focus. It's not terribly bad. You may or may not be able to see it in the camera view here. But again, not a bad do-it-yourself project if you're just working and stuff like that. Okay, now there again, these are just comparable hammers as far as what they're capable of, stuff like that. Trim hammers. Also, if you notice the length here, I'll see if I can kind of get them close to the same height here, give you an idea what's going on. Okay, that's close, but also the longer the handle, the more leverage you have to drive a nail. Therefore, in theory, it doesn't take, sorry about that, I get my hand in the way occasionally, it doesn't take as much effort to drive a nail, for example. Okay, alright, that brings me to this one. This one's an East Wing. Okay, American made hammer, very good hammer, by the way. Well, I got it upside down, but an East Wing. Okay, and it has a safety warning on it. Very comfortable grip on it, for one thing. It's a little longer. It is about a 16-ounce hammer. If you notice this shaft, the way it's built, okay, and the head is all one, so there is no handle coming loose or any of that. Also, this is very round, very smooth, which is good in some cases. The claw is straighter. This is kind of a versatile hammer, I guess you could say. Not really a trim hammer, not really a framing hammer, kind of in between. In theory, they're about 12 inches long. That's not quite 12 inches. I think it's like 11 something, but they make them with that, with the idea in case you have to put in an electrical box, for example. Let me scroll over here, and one of the houses I'm working on, of course that's not quite 12 inches off the ground, but in theory you can set this on the ground. That will give you about 12 inches up to the bottom of your box. You can nail the box in, for example, or if you're looking for studs, you can put your hammer on there. That might be another good trick that you learn. Especially on framing hammers, a lot of the decent framing hammers, Stanley makes a solid piece, framing hammer, stuff like that. Sometimes you'll see the little nail catch in them. I get the camera to focus in. This one does not have that, but again, like a framing hammer is normally about 16 inches long. That way when you're going down the walls, you can go, hey, lay it up against your wall. That's 16 inches, just where I put my nail, hammer it in. Okay. This is very comfortable to use, probably will last you a lifetime plus some. You know, there again, it has a vulnerability. It has the rubber handle, although it's a little better grade. I don't know if you can read what's on there. Yeah, 2325, but a little better grade. This is about a 16-ounce hammer. If it's something that you use every day as a professional, very handy to have. Now they make East Wing, being East Wing, they're again a very good American-made company. I'm not endorsing any particular one, but I'm just particular to East Wing just because of their history that I have with them. They make anywhere from a trim hammer, which is kind of like that one. Basically, if you take that head, well, okay, that's a bad example. If you take a head like that, put the curl on of that hammer, maybe not quite that curved on the claws, but a little shorter hammer, or hammer handle, I should say. You'll have to pardon me here. I'm trying to videotape, and I mashed my finger pretty good here today. Yeah, I'm not taking that off because I split the fingernail, and I did it up good. But anyway, like I said, for general purpose hammers, these are kind of a good thing. There again, that's kind of going from you do it yourself. Very rarely used to a little more heavier used. And actually, I'm not tuned which. And let's see, if I was going to put them in order, I'd probably put them in that order. Well, no, I think I had it right the first time. These are kind of, in my opinion, I think this is a little bit better than the, just because that's hollow in the middle. And everybody goes, well, that's not a big deal. May not be a big deal until you miss and hit a 2x4 example or something like that. There again, if you're something that you're using every day, stuff like that, common everyday use hammers, these are fairly good. I mean, that's kind of like the trim hammer, but I wish I had one of my framing hammers here. I don't right now, but they're usually about 16 to 18 ounces. I think that one is that one's close to that, but and then like I said, you know, depends upon your activity for what you're doing. For example, if you're roofing, I mean, this is maybe not really a roofing hammer. Some of them have straighter claws than this even. If I can get the camera to focus here. Just got a little curve for it. But like I said, a roofing hammer, even if you don't use it and you use a pneumatic nailer, which is what most contractors do nowadays, but then there again, I have used put on a roof by hand before. You may want a straight claw one, and like I said, the idea behind that is, in case you slip and fall, you can then bury that into the roof, the decking, or what have you. Okay, and that's, some people go, well, you just put a hole in the roof. Okay, well, would you rather fix a hole in the roof or fix you? I don't know about you, but I'd rather just fix the roof. I can do that, Also, if you notice, this one on the right here has a little longer handle than most of them. It's kind of hard to compare. Here, I'll let you kind of get this in order here, and you can see it's a little longer. There again, it gives you more leverage. It's more of a, like I said, this was more of a professional hammer, if you want to call it that, for someone that uses it every day, day in, day out, or very commonly anyway. It has a very comfortable grip on it. That especially for my size hand anyway, it fits really comfortable. Whereas this one, it's a little bigger than I like, and you can obviously see some of the, they're getting a little different grades in this. I don't know if you can see this or not, but this one's starting to deteriorate pretty quickly. It's a little cheaper plastic. It's not as comfortable in the hand. It doesn't have that spongy feel per se. But there again, for a do-it-yourselfer, not a bad thing. Okay. Any of them will get the job done. If I have my druthers, and of course, I own all of these, obviously, but if I had my druthers, I would probably stay away from the wood handle. Not that it's a bad thing. It has its purpose, but for what I do, it just bothers me because the handle's loose on that one. Okay. Other than that, I have no problems with it. And again, that can be tightened up with shims and things of that nature. As you've seen, they put I think it's a roofing nail in the top of that. Yeah, you can see that. I don't know if I did that. I don't think I did. But this was actually my dad's hammer, and it's got some sentimental. But you can see daylight through that stuff, man. I mean, all you gotta do is swing that one good time. And I don't know if you notice on this hand, or not, but it's loose, obviously. And you see the cracking in it, things like that. Again, a good hickory or oak handle will probably do very good wonders for that. But that's just my personal opinion. I hang on to that one because, like I said, that's kind of like my grandfather's one, or it's probably older than I am. So, and I do this day in, day out. Like I said, the one I actually carry is this one over here. It's a very, I've had that forever and a day. They're a little more expensive. But Eastwing makes everywhere from a framing hammer to this one to a trim hammer, which is more like this one, to minus the wood handle. It's still got the solid shaft, okay, to a miniature sledge, I mean, you name it, okay. Like I said, each wing's American made. Anything that's American made, I back. I mean, I'm who wouldn't? Who's an American? So, that being said, like I said, I've had a few questions about, what are some, what are some of the things that you would do with hammers. Any of these hammers would be okay for an occasional thing. Obviously, if you're driving a 16 penny nail, one of the framing nails that are like 2 or 3 inches long or more, this may not be your choice for it, okay? But if you're driving a little finish nail that's a half inch, maybe 1/8 inch in diameter, maybe 1/16 in diameter, this might be your choice. Whereas maybe a roofing nail that's 2 inches long, you can probably do with any of these, I prefer this one because that drives a little more quicker, but there again, if you're not in production and depends on how many you're doing, any of these will do the job. So anyway, I was just touching base with you guys because I've had a lot of questions as far as hand tools, what's the better one, what's this and that and the other. It's really up to what you do, how often you use it, and the number one thing is what's comfortable to you. Okay, if it's something you're going to be using day in and day out, 8-10 hours a day, or even using it 2 or 3 hours a day, or just you're wanting to hang on to it for a long time, you want to buy something that lasts. Obviously if you use it a lot. So if it's something that sits in the drawer most of the time and you pull it out, it may not be something you don't need necessarily all the comfort and all this, that, and the other. So each hammer has its own potential, and it also has to do with what you're doing with it. Okay, trying to frame a house with a trim hammer, you can do it, but you're going to wear yourself out. On the flip side of that, trying to run trim with a framing hammer that weighs 16-18 ounces and has the waffle face on it, which all these are smooth face. I wish I had my framing hammer here. I'd show you the difference. But see how these are all smooth. The framing hammers a lot of times have a waffle face on them. Basically, it looks like a waffle, and they're all ruffled up, and they're getting much bigger hammer, probably about twice the size of this sucker. Maybe not quite, but half again the size. And it's 16 to 18 ounce hammer, and it's made to drive the big long nails that are as long as this hammerhead here on this one, or whatever. But there again, if you're doing roofing, you probably want a little bit more of a straighter claw. And I make a straight claw framing hammer too, so it all depends on what you're doing. Like I said, for me personally, this one is the East Wing. That's the one that I go with, but that's because I may not use it day in and day out, but there's days that I may be putting on siding, for example. Well, that's great for a siding hammer, there's days I may be up on a roof putting a roof on, which I don't like doing roofs, but that's okay. And this gives me that quite, that almost straight claw. I can bury that in a roof if I need to, So, but these are ones that I keep at home all the time in case I need them too. Anyway, so, these sit in the drawer a lot. But there again, if I'm trimming, I may not want that hammer. I may want a smaller hammer like this one. It only weighs, a few ounces. So it really depends on what you're doing and why, how often you use it, stuff like that. Biggest thing is, if you're using a lot, you gotta find one that's comfortable. If you're using one that's not so comfortable, will sit in the drawer most of the time, well then that's okay, but I don't even know if they sell. Yeah, they do sell wooden handles. I take that back. So I was gonna say I don't think they sell wooden handles anymore, but yes they do. So but anyway, that kind of gives you a rundown of general idea. Like I said, if it's something that's just gonna sit in the drawer and you're just using it to tack up pictures with, so I got something like something on the far left may work, So if it's something you may want to put up some framing with, it may be anywhere from that one to possibly that one, you know. So just depends on what you're doing and how often you use it, stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Yeah, if it's something that's going to sit in the drawer most of the time, you know, you can go out and buy a cheap one and be from there. Because honestly, these suckers, if you buy them online new, are expensive. Go look up East Wing hammers. I give you an idea. There's a wide variety out there. Some of them are $45 a piece, and that's probably mid-range on them. So, but anyway, and that being said, also, framing hammer, sometimes you have to knock a 2x4 in, something like that. I mean, with the bigger hammer, like I said, this one over here is a nice balance. But however, if you're in a framing situation, you may want a framing hammer. If you have some 2x4s you need to move, like a wall or something, you may want the 3-pound hammer, okay? Because I'm not even showing, I've got an 8-pound hammer around here and a 3-pound hammer around here somewhere that are basically miniature sledge, and then off-site here I have a 16-pound hammer, or sledgehammer. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're busting up concrete, you may like the 16 or 8. If you're driving stakes, you may want the 16 or 8, or even the 3. It depends on what you're driving into. There again, the 3-pound hammer has its advantages. You can't pull nails with them, obviously, because they don't have the claws on them. But you can break up cement, light cement with it. You can move walls with it. You can break out 2x4s, things of that nature, a lot easier than you could with these. So each hammer has its differences and pluses and minuses and things like that. So it depends, like I said, it really depends on what you're doing. My everyday carry hammer, there again, I work construction, and that's what I do, is this one. It's a general purpose hammer, is the best way I can describe it. You know, if I need to drive a framing nail, the 16-inch, you know, 2 or 3 inch long nail in there, I can. If I need to drive a roofing nail in, if I need to put siding up, I can. You know, it may not be most desirable for a framing nail like the 16 penny, you know, 2 or 3 inch 16 penny nail, or a no pole nail, for example, which takes a little bit more effort to drive, but it will get the job done. So again, I don't do that. I do a little bit of everything. So that's kind of my choice of hammer right there, but that's my personal opinion. And the other thing I want to mention is, before I forget, okay, this has deflection, is what they're talking about. That's why this this handle is made the way it is, partly because of deflection. If you can see, it's kind of angled. It doesn't deflect a whole lot when you hit the nail on the head, literally. Okay, and pretty good stout hammer, so when you hit something, it's pretty solid. This one, being fiberglass, it flexes a little more in a hammer. It has a little more deflection, although with the angles and stuff it helps, but doesn't hit quite as hard, and you can see how it bounces. Okay, this one is a little bit lighter, somewhere between a trim nail and a trim hammer, and it has a little bit more deflection in it, and it obviously bounces too. Okay, I'm just dropping these on the floor. Wood handle doesn't deflect a whole lot depending upon the type of wood it is. Well, you can see how this is chipped out over here too, but that's what happens to them after time. And it's a trim hammer, but it didn't have a whole lot of deflection, but there again, it's acceptable to breaking, especially if you strike hard with it. Although with you see how this is made. This is an old school hammer, I'll be honest with you. But these trim hammers are not designed to hit hard with either, so, you know, but that kind of gives you an idea what they are. There again, that's just picking them up and dropping them. They bounce a little bit, but you can actually feel them a little bit better when you do it. You know, you can feel which one's going to hit better harder, and, you know, so that's hard to explain on camera. But anyway, I have taken up enough of you guys' time. Hopefully that answers a few of your questions. Hit the like button down below wherever it's at. Subscribe so you can get the little ding dong and drive you nuts when I put a new video up. Pardon me. And be sure to check back once in a while. It's been a while since I put one on. But I've had a lot of legal issues and stuff to go through, so but I will be back to hopefully answer a few more of your questions. One of the other questions I had was, what's the best, what's a good cordless tool? Because I say tool because I've had questions about cordless impacts and screw guns and drills and you name it, but I will try and conquer one at a time. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave them down below. Feel free to text me or email me, or I'm on Facebook also, so I own the BMW Properties, which we find us on Facebook, and yeah, so like I said, bring some more questions to me here. These are some of the ones that I've been asked over time, and I think I'm going to get a haircut tonight and get rid of this shaggy hair. Part of the reason why I'm not on video right now. Anyway, God bless, take care, what is it, sleep tight, don't let the bug bite, whatever they say. Live long and prosper. Catch you later, bye.